So hello, I am Laughing Boy. My real name is Andrew. I'm part of Zelda Universe, and we are going to be doing a little discussion about the Zelda Timeline. So, how many people here know what Zelda is?
Everyone should be raising their hand. If you're not raising your hand, then you're not participating.
This is not an introductory course. If you don't know what Zelda is, please exit.
I was going to say, I mean, it kind of is in one way, and it kind of really isn't in another. Like, this is basically going to be one of those things where if you have no idea what any of this is, you'll at least have all of it kind of known by the time you walk out of here.
It's like jumping in the deep end of a pool and being like, I can swim now.
You know, just be. I mean, look, we're going to be up here talking about stuff, and you know, you might. Some of you in the audience that know Zelda might hear what is actually coming out of us, and others might hear, oh, the Glippy Schlippy Doo and the Snippy Doo.
Yeah, basically it's a learning experience.
That was the Gorons at Death Mountain.
In case you didn't hear me the first time in the back, I am Laughing Boy LP. I'm Andrew. Both of those names are just fine. And I am the YouTube director for Zelda Universe. But to my left, I have two very lovely guests. Over on my immediate left, we have...
Hi, I'm Sayanella. I do lots of video game stuff online, as you know, we all do. Love Zelda. Gonna try my best with this timeline. We'll see.
And over to her immediate left, we have...
Yeah, hold on, Tom Ogridy. And I'm a Twitka streamer and a Yo Tubber. Yeah, that's right.
Tubber?
Did I at least spell it right? I didn't check with you first.
I think so.
Okay.
That's how you spell Yo Tubber.
That's not how you spell Tom. Look, on 3 hours of sleep, I have like a third grader's brain. It's fine. Coffee is my life force, even though, Starbucks did not, contribute any monetary funds to this panel, and I'm not allowed to, they are not a sponsor, so I'm not allowed to mention it, but I may be eating and drinking coffee throughout the entirety of this panel. Anyway, so if you didn't know anything about Zelda, you will by the end of this panel. So if you are looking forward to doing all of this on your own and you're like, man, I really want to play the very first Legend of Zelda, I hope nothing is spoiled for me. That's not going to fly here. We will be talking about these things. We will be discussing, maybe not in depth. I'm not, I don't expect too much from me. I'm just the YouTube director. But we will be talking at length about most of the games in the Zelda franchise and how they fit on the timeline, which goes into some story spoilers. So you have been warned. I see nobody has left the room. That works great for me. Let's move on. So who's a fan of Skyward Sword?
Woo!
Who's only a fan of Skyward Sword after the Wii version? I appreciate your honesty. I haven't even played the Switch version. I like the Wii version, and then I was like, it's still sealed. What do you want? I played the original!
Oh, okay.
Like 10 years ago.
All right.
Yay! Yay, Laughing Boy! Yay! So our story begins. One fine, lovely day in Skyloft.
As many stories do, with a girl pushing a guy off of a statue.
Yeah. And getting a letter spat into my face. Our story begins with Skyward Sword, which came out on the Wii in 2009?
11.
11. Jeez, why did I say 9? What was 2009?
I don't know. I don't think anything Zelda related came out. Well, nothing main console came out in Zelda in 2009. Probably a handheld game.
Probably.
That entire batch of years blends together. It's fine.
Yeah, my entire late 18, early 20s, that just, once upon a time...
Crack is a hell of a drug.
I'm Zelda. Once upon a time, there was a nasty earthquake. Evil forces ran amok, and the bad guys wanted the Triforce. We all know what the Triforce is and does. Once you collect the entirety of said Triforce, you can make any wish that you would like. Or basically, it's not even a wish maker. It's not like you grab it and it's like the Dragon Balls. It looks into your heart and soul and then just kind of reflects everything out into the world as how you would like them to be. The goddess Hylia did not want bad guys taking the Triforce, so she took it, and she took all the good guys who were okay with the way things were and the status quo, and they sent them up into the sky. Because that's what you do. If you have a cat, and they're trying to get at something you don't want them to get, you try to put them as high away as possible. And yet the cat will still try to obtain the thing that you are trying to keep away from them out in the sky. She knew, and the goddess Hylia knew that because she probably owned a few cats herself.
I'm going to interject here. Spirit Tracks came out in 2009.
Nice. We may or may not talk about that. I haven't seen all of the slides yet. So anyway, she knew that couldn't last very long, and she gave up her immortality so that she could use the Triforce and seal herself and said Triforce away. And then, Link and Zelda. Basically, the main story of Skyward Sword is essentially that this is sort of the beginning of the loop, so to speak. We have the loop in terms of a new hero of time, as Link is going to be known for after Ocarina of Time, or Hero of the Winds if you're a big Wind Waker fan. And everyone else basically kind of reincarnates except for one. He just kind of sticks around. However, the very first boss, I guess Malice is kind of like the originator, and then everything after
cat.
has just been. He's the cat.
He's the cat.
He's the cat.
Yep.
We have Meowser, and now we need
Meowser.
Meow Mice.
Meowless.
Meowless.
Meownendorf.
Who eventually becomes Ganyandorf.
Yeah, Ganyandorf. Ganyandorf.
Oh, no. Ganyandorf?
Ooh,
Hello?
it's weirder in person.
Why are you looking at me?
Uwu gives me Triforce.
What's Triforce, Uwu? So anyway, basically, Skyloft stays, right? Or does it fall? I don't remember. It's been like over 10 years since I played the game. Part of it, yeah. We have some repercussions of Links and Zelda's actions, and then they continue to live on the surface and live happily ever after. And that is the beginnings of Hyrule as we know it.
Happily ever after, he says. Until it doesn't.
Until the Minish Cap, which was, when this came out, was supposedly the original, the first in the timeline. Supposedly Hyrule's a mess again, and I'm kind of reading the slides and I'm like, Hyrule's a mess again. But I mean, it was fine when the game started, right? Like, it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was a literal lower class citizenry, and I mean low because they were very close to the ground. And we talk about the Picori Blade, and on the 100th anniversary of the Picori Blade sealing the bound chest and saving Hyrule, which is a story we haven't gone into yet, and maybe we won't see a game about that. Maybe we will. All of a sudden, Vati comes along and breaks the blade, which opens the chest again and lets evil out and run amok. Zelda then turns to stone, and apparently Link, being a blacksmith apprentice, and somehow, childhood friends with Zelda, goes to fix said Picori Blade, teams up with Ezlo, turns the Picori Blade into the Four Swords, and saves the day. I mean, this is essentially this is how the Four Sword is created, and this is also really just I remember in press releases, they were like, this is the origins of Link's hat.
Which I guess would later be retconned for
Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
And it was like, yes, do you ever want to hear the story about why Link always wears a green hat? Well, it used to talk. But before that, apparently it didn't.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
a
some of the people around Link are just like, is the talking hat in the room with us now, Link?
Look, at this point, Link always had to have a partner character. They liked Navi. They kept that trend going. And so now you have this wisecracking beaked bird sitting on Link's head.
Look, all of the wisecracking ones are the best ones. I'm looking at Midna. I'm looking at Little Birdie Hat. You need a little spice in his life. Saying.
Fee was very wise.
Would you count Zelda as being Link's guide in Breath of the Wild then? She doesn't pop up nearly as much as the other ones do, but for the most part, it's just Link.
I feel like Breath of the Wild was the big change of not having that partner character. But I mean, technically, Zelda is Link's partner character in Spirit Tracks,
Oh yeah.
True.
which came out in 2009.
That was a fact we learned
In
today.
fact, it's going to be on the test.
And she's also spicy in that one. All the spicy
She's
ones are the
very
best.
spicy in that one. She's a very spicy princess. So speaking of Four Swords, let's talk about A Link to the Past. But not. Who likes A Link to the Past? Well, we're getting to it later. What we really want to talk about is the mini game that Capcom packed into this deluxe edition for the Game Boy Advance, and what this means for the timeline. So in this, we have Vati wakes up, doesn't remember who he is, which is great when this actually comes out before Minish Cap. So he decides he's going to be the Wind Mage. He just decided that he wants to do that, and he wants to marry Zelda, which is weird. Like, they really wanted to make a not Ganon character, and then this is like Vati's like original appearance, and not a great start.
Well, this and Minish Cap were both done by Capcom, right?
Yes, they were.
Okay, so yeah, that would explain it. They wanted to like sort of, because I feel like every Capcom developed Zelda game didn't have Ganon as the end all be all. Because Oracle of Seasons and Ages, it was, I don't remember their names, but there was like
It was
two.
Twin Rova, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where Twin Rova
Chat.
came from?
Oh, if you combine
So Ganon
if you
was
link the two
eventually-
games together, you could fight Ganon. Okay, like
Yep.
link cable, you hook it up, and then it's like, damn, there's Ganon, dude.
Yeah. And I mean, technically, like, a lot of the handheld ones didn't technically use Ganon as a final boss character. Link's Awakening didn't do that either.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You fight Ganon, but it's just a nightmare version of
Right?
him.
Yeah.
So,
This is what he'd be like if he were here.
a black silhouette
Ganon's not
and
here, but
nothing
what
else.
if he was?
Almost like he's a one-note character and very flat. Let's move on. So basically, again, this is just another story of the Four Swords. Originally, like in production order, this comes out before Minish Cap and is kind of like a preface to what Capcom would wind up making with Minish Cap, and reusing Vati as a character, which I thought was great. Like, it's nice when they kind of think outside the box every now and then and just
Once
bring
in a
someone
while.
new.
Once in a while.
Once in a while. Did any of you guys play the actual minigame version of Four Swords?
No.
A lot, like when it first came out, I did, because I had a couple of friends who I only played it like once. Like I didn't even know there was like a story associated with it. I thought it was just multiplayer Zelda.
Yeah, same here. Like, I didn't think it would have any bearing on the timeline, and I remember being out. I was literally at Disney World, and I dragged a friend along, and we both happened to have a copy of the game. So literally, we're just sitting in Fantasyland, just playing Four Swords.
Could you even play that single player?
I don't believe so. No, I think every
look,
single part
I
of the
was
game.
homeschooled. I had no friends. I couldn't play it, even if I wanted to.
Somebody in the back. The anniversary collection. You can, yeah, and who has that, by the way?
Anniversary
Does anybody, show of hands, who has the anniversary version of Four Swords for the DS?
Oh yeah, the 3DS, right?
It was
3D
right on,
DSi.
It was at the very tail end of DSiWare, and so I think I have it on my 3DS.
A few people have it.
Yeah.
A few people.
You could transfer it.
Okay.
Yep. So, but it was like out for a week, but you could I think you can still re-download it as long as you download it once. I don't remember. You can? Well, you know. That was
Yay,
from my
lost
panel
media.
yesterday.
Hey, Nintendo.
You want to talk about games that are expensive? You should have been here yesterday. So here's where we get the split. You've heard of this.
I want to interject really quick, because is Four Sword Adventure on this timeline? Like because I figured that'd be
It should be, yes.
right, because that would be before Ocarina of Time, right?
That has been a debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would be after one of the timelines in Ocarina of Time. But if I remember correctly, Four Swords Adventures specifically has been moved like once or twice. So, and I don't remember where it used to be.
I think it was like.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this panel goes over it, right? So, Ocarina of Time, Hyrule is in a state of civil war. Before the game begins, we learn about things that happened through a lot of like subtext or story points, we know that Link was not meant to be a Kokiri. He was a Hylian who was dropped off by his mother, and I think this is one of the rare instances where we even talk about
Have any sort of mention of
parents.
Link's any sort of family.
Yeah. We don't really see any of that until Wind Waker, if I remember correctly. And then I can't remember, Link. Oh, well, we have Link to the Past with Link's uncle.
Yep.
Oh,
We have Link's
yeah.
uncle. And then so I think this is like one of the only times we hear that he has like parentage.
A direct
A
parent.
direct parent.
Because, yeah, even in Wind Waker, it was his grandma, wasn't it?
Grandmammy. Yeah.
Granny.
Gran.
How much you want to like? I get the feeling that like any of Link's, I feel like it's just like Link showed up one day, he
Immaculate
doesn't have any biological parents at all. He just appears one day, and because like whatever the fates that be are just like, yeah, shit's gonna go down at this point in time, so we need a hero here. So just like, there we go.
He drops out of the sky. That's why Skyward Sword is first.
120
That's
pounds
right.
of
They all
120
start in the
pounds of
sky.
hunky clay.
It's one of the birds just delivers an egg, and then like a Cabbage Patch Kid, Link just.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like Piccolo in Dragon Ball where he throws up the egg.
Yeah, you just spit.
Or
Yep,
it's
there's a
like
new
one
hero.
of those eggs that you put in water and then it slowly grows over time.
Yes. Oh my God. Who had one of those? Who had one of those little sea monkeys as a kid?
So one thing you've learned
Link was a
today,
sea monkey.
one thing you've learned today is that Link is a homunculus.
Just imagining Link crawling out of the transmutation circle like Ed and Al's mom.
Oh no!
Nightmare Link. So
Kill me.
long before
This
the
is now
story
an
begins,
AU.
7 years in fact before the story begins, Link is dropped off into the Kokiri Forest by Link's mom. She does not make it, and the Great Deku Tree and the rest of the Kokiri take care of him. It's kind of a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer situation. Link doesn't have a fairy. He seems to be getting older, which is weird because we don't do that, and so let's just make fun of him. My notes say everyone made fun of Link. It was like
It was really just
one
Mido.
person.
It was just everyone just sort of like treated him like I wouldn't say they treated him necessarily differently. I feel like they might have treated him like he was a bit lesser, but only Mido was really the one who was really hard on him about not having a
Just
fairy.
that
Yeah.
one dude.
It was otherwise basically just the beginning of Elf. Like, Link shows up, he somehow gets bigger than all the other kids, and they're all like being really supportive, but back they're just kind of like, something's weird. Something's going on.
Could we get a version of Ocarina of Time where Link never leaves Kokiri Forest and he's just like this
Bum, bum, bum.
he's like 30 he's like 30 years old, like significantly taller than the other Kokiri, and then that's when his call to action begins.
Link, goddammit, you're 31, get out of here. Stop acting like a dinosaur and grow up. So
Fly,
when
Navi,
he finally
please
gets
fly this man out of here.
we don't have clothes big enough, I told you. So when he gets his fairy, the Great Deku Tree, as wise as he is, tells a 7-year-old to go out and fight a bunch of monsters. What's worse, a scientist telling a 10-year-old to go capture monsters, or a tree telling a 7-year-old to fight demons?
Well, the tree the tree could imply some form of perhaps psychosis because the tree might not actually be talking. At the same time, though, that does like the tree talking to him sounds pretty biblical, like the burning bush in for talking to Moses.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
That's true.
Link is actually 9 in Ocarina of Time. There's an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto where he says that Link is 9 and 7 years later he becomes 16. Yeah.
Well, good job. He can get his driver's license. That's why he can't ride a Pono before he goes forward in time. I'm just gonna try to fill time here while Andrew has an episode here trying to figure this out. Oh man, I wish like if we could get like some live editing here of just the beautiful mind equations going around Andrew right now.
It's like that one GIF with all the math equations going like, ah.
Carry the 7. Anyway, this is also the first time we see Ganondorf. Now, here's the thing. a lot of us we like to refer to Ganondorf as Ganondorf, and sometimes we like to refer Ganon as Ganondorf as well. The Dorf is mainly that he is in a human form. He is a Gerudo. He is one of, I think, one male born every 100 years, which at the time made absolutely zero sense, and then apparently Breath of the Wild fixed that logic.
It's just that like Gerudo genes are like super strong, and they just like take men from other cultures.
Yeah, and it's weird because they almost imply that in Ocarina of Time with the captured
the carpenters.
Right,
yep.
right.
And when you really think about it, that is so messed up.
Eat for everybody.
That's pretty messed
They
up.
kidnapped 5 dudes and put them in jail, and then
Who knows?
Dot.
Who knows?
Death by Snoo Snoo. So one male born every 100 years, and that becomes their king. And then he decided to use that power in order to take over the entire kingdom in a very generic Phase 1 Marvel Cinematic Universe villain plot of I'm just evil, so I'm just gonna do it.
I do like it in the sense of where it's like, because when you first like talk to Zelda in the garden and like they look in and see Ganon is like he's plotting something we don't know, but we need the stones, and then you get the stones and you open the door, he's like, psych. You did my job for me. I've got the Triforce now. You just have a little sword.
Well, I do like the idea that he's just kind of like, he doesn't actually want Link to get these pieces because he hid them away. And then when he opens up the door, he just kind of was like, aha, I meant for that to happen.
The entire
You
time.
stupid child. Aha.
This was my plan
I
all
knew
along.
he was going to fall asleep and then be taken to some sacred realm. Aha! Yes.
We needed him to do because he's the only person who pulled the sword.
That's also true, but he
Oh,
could
the
have
sword
just
had to be
handed it
pulled
to
for.
him.
I thought just the door had to be
He
open.
could have just hired an Uber driver to just send it over to Link too. Like, he didn't have to make him go through all that bullshit just to get these 3 stones. He could have just like left them here and just with a sticky note that said "for kid."
Well,
I'm just
remember, Ganon's minions didn't have the spiritual stones. That was held by the leaders of the different tribes. The Deku Tree had the Kokiri Emerald. Bruto had the Sapphire, and Darunia had the Ruby. None of the enemies did.
Well, so the only one that actually had what he had was the Deku Tree, but essentially the spiritual stone of fire was thrown into the Dodongo cavern and locked away.
No,
and
I thought Darunia gives it to you because he's just like, I'll give it to you if you unlock
Shit,
Dodongo's
wait, you're
cavern,
right,
and then
you are
Ruto
right.
has it
Oh,
because
yeah, you're right. You're right. But
Oh.
but then the spiritual stone of water is actually in Jabu Jabu because
Ruto has it the whole time. A marriage proposal.
Yeah, Jabu
that's what I'm
ate it
saying.
first.
It was in Jabu Jabu.
But again, it wasn't held by a particular enemy. Jabu Jabu ate it to protect
As far
it.
as I'm concerned, Jabu Jabu is the enemy. Sorry, that dungeon sucks. That dungeon.
And I'm only
can
saying the reason
die.
why it was a total accident, but Jabu Jabu's condition was caused by Ganon's
True.
evil tricks.
That is true. That is true.
So a lot of that had to do with Ganon creating the trials that he didn't necessarily have to do when he could have just been like the Tooth Fairy while Link was asleep in the opening paragraph and just snuck it under his bed and said like, go to Temple of Time. Don't ask questions. Love Ganny.
Hearts.
It's it's just like, hello, I'm Nonag, and I'm here to give you the spiritual stones. Don't ignore my mustache and Gerudo appearance. I'm not Ganon.
It literally could have just been like Aladdin, where he shows up as an old man and just goes like, "I need you to go to the Cave of Wonders, and I need you to go and do this thing for
But either
me."
way, he'd still be doing the things though.
Well,
like what he ended up doing
gives him the
was
key.
hands off.
Yeah, well, he gives him the scarab. Anyway, you have schooled me in my vast incompetence of knowledge, so we're going to go to a trivia question. Now, we have a couple of trivia questions. If you, do we have a, we do not have a microphone. We can work with this, though. So I will go ahead and pick somebody after I ask the question. No, hold on. We'll do this Jeopardy style. I'll ask the question, you raise your hand, and I'll pick. And you can earn, 2 mag points. we're running out of mag points. And those mag points can be used downstairs in the exhibit hall, and that is as good as cash for the value that is said on the token.
One point is $1.
$1. So, you know, it may not help you get Lester the Unlikely boxed complete, but, you know, maybe it'll help somewhere along the line.
Well, that's some nice art.
It's a discount.
John, maybe. But he probably already has it. So, our first question. In Ocarina of Time, Malon wears a brooch of Mario character. Who is that character? You were first.
That was Bowser, correct?
Correct.
Bowser is correct.
Come up here and get your $2.
Careful, they're sharp.
All right, and now we have a fork in the road. So a lot of things that we kind of understood as Zelda nerds on the message boards back in the 2000s had an idea of, well, there has to be a clear delineation between what happens in Ocarina of Time. We assumed that there was an adult Link timeline and that there was a child Link timeline, but until we saw the actual Hyrule Historia, we could not conceive that there was a third timeline, even though it actually makes perfect sense. There was the idea that we have the heroes triumphant and the child timeline continues when Link goes back to being a child. We have the heroes triumphant and Link's adult timeline continues on as it was. But we didn't idealize the fact that Link could just, you know, fucking die. So you ever wonder what happens when you get a game over? You get a timeline split. Now, if you're a big fan of Metal Gear Solid 3, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So we have what is considered the Fallen Hero timeline. Link was defeated and Ganondorf gets all 3 pieces of the Triforce. The 7 Sages uses every ounce of their power that they have to seal Ganondorf and the Triforce into the Sacred Realm. But the Sacred Realm becomes the Dark World by doing so, and Ganondorf becomes Demon King Ganon. This is where we start going from Dorf to simply Ganon. I don't know why exactly. He's like, no, just Ganon's fine.
He takes on a rather portly appearance.
Yeah, it takes on a very appropriate for being called Ganon. Yeah,
He got tired of being called Ganondorf all the time. And he's like, we don't need to do that.
Ganondorf.
We don't need to do that anymore.
He had a bully like Kevin from Ed, Edd n Eddy.
Ganondorf. Dork. Kevin. So this gives us more games in the Fallen Heroes Defeated timeline, which makes sense as we would clearly have some conflict. And the first game in that timeline is A Link to the Past. So in the beginning, go ahead. Yeah, it's a good game. They did a good job. So what happens in the very beginning before the title screen appears, you get this text blurb about how the sages seal Ganon into the Sacred Realm, and the Sacred Realm becomes tainted by Ganon's evil heart and the Triforce being there at the same time. And what essentially happens is that the imprisonment war starts up once again with the Sacred Realm being reopened. Ganon is able to kind of take control of the wizard Aghanim and use his evil sway in order to allow the Dark World to be opened and to bridge the gap between the 2 realms so that Ganon could essentially come back and take over both worlds. And now he's got 2 Denny's, I guess. So he can choose which one he wants to go to, I guess.
He's got his normal home in the Sacred Realm, and then he's got his vacation home in Hyrule.
That's right. I had an Airbnb there.
And it's like he's got it's like a lakeside cabin in Tahoe that he just retreats to every once in a while. A hero comes up, tries to defeat him, he kills him. He's like, I can't be here anymore. I'm going to Tahoe.
Yeah, Link's wish for the Triforce is just the keys to the Airbnb.
There you go. But the cleaning fees are outrageous.
It was really more of a burden than a privilege. So Ganon gets a hold of the Triforce, uses it to attack Hyrule. Things calm down for a while. Aghanim comes along, starts causing trouble. Zelda uses her telepathy, which... Okay. To call Link for help. Link gets the Master Sword. This is... even though Skyward Sword is the origin story for the Master Sword, I believe...
This is the first game that has the Master Sword in it proper, I believe.
Well, we still have Ocarina of Time. So he uses the Master Sword.
No, I mean in release order.
Oh, yeah, in production
Yeah.
order,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because by then, we weren't calling it the Master Sword. It was basically just red sword, like blue sword.
Well, I think the Master Sword, because you had the standard sword, you had the Master Sword, and then there were 2 upgrades to the Master Sword.
In this game, yeah.
In A Link to the Past. And
there's,
in Zelda 1, it was just upgraded swords.
It was just an upgraded sword. And literally in Link's Awakening, the game that comes out right before this, you have just level 1, level 2.
Yeah.
So Link travels to the Dark World with the Master Sword, defeats Ganon, wishes upon the Triforce to undo all the damage that Ganon does. And essentially, that pretty much settles it. Like, everything that started with Ocarina of Time gets rectified. And,
Then we get a time loop, and we end up starting back over at Skyward Sword.
and then, yeah. Welcome to the Zelda Timeline panel.
Welcome to the Zelda Timeline.
So what do you do when you save Hyrule? You go on 3 vacations. So there's some interesting factoids about how this works. I believe one of the official timelines say that Link's Awakening happens after Oracle Invasions and Seasons, and then it got moved. Because we are a Zelda website that uses the one where Link's Awakening happens first, we're going to go with that. I'm not biased. Link's Awakening didn't happen. I'm sorry I spoiled that for you.
Y'all were warned.
Y'all were warned. What about the bird? What about the feelings I had? Those were real.
Yeah, Link was real, the wind fish was real, and maybe Marin was real.
Yeah, Marin question mark is real.
Marin just turned into Titus from Final Fantasy X.
Oh, that's true too. Well, that's different. And then
That was the shortest slide.
So after that, Link's like, well, that sucks. I'm gonna keep going on vacation. Now, there's some things here. There's the overlying conflict between the 2 games is that when you have Twin Rova that is trying to resurrect Ganon, apparently they just, after decades and decades of just kind of not being there, they just decided to come back, whatever, as you do. Only they don't really do it right. They kind of don't do a very good job at all. Once Link saves Zelda and defeats Ganon, Link then hops on a boat, crashes. That's how Link's Awakening. So like, it's weird. Like, so some people say that the Oracle's games happen first, and then Link hops on a boat, and then you have the Link's Awakening series, which take place. But then like it takes place before the Oracle. It's fine. Like it's.
I like the thought of Link's Awakening coming first because he just has a nice nap and then he wakes up and then he's like, all right, what's next?
He wakes up in the middle. He wakes up in the middle of the ocean.
Well,
So?
it's weird because like the opening to both Oracle's games is that he rides on Epona or a horse. It doesn't have to be Epona, I guess. Rides on a horse and then finds a mystical land, depending on which one you start on first. Finishes that, rides on his horse again, finds a mystical land, whichever the one you started on second, and then he hops on a boat. So we assume that the boat's the Link's Awakening boat, but it's kind of weird.
Is Link's Awakening just a concussion? Like,
Oh, it absolutely is.
because I think about it, he just like he's sailing along in the storm. He get like a lightning bolt strikes his ship, and then he's like on this island with all this weird stuff happening. In reality, what happens is that the lightning struck. He's at the bottom of the sea, like.
Yeah.
And then he suddenly snaps to, and then there's a bird that he saw in his dream. Only if he did the good ending for his dream though.
That's right. Afterwards, we get a link between worlds. So things are pretty good in the land of Hyrule for a few hundred years, and then Yuga shows up all of a sudden. Link meets Ravio, who gives him a special bracelet, which allows him to do the whole mechanic of this game, which is to kind of get into the walls.
He turns into graffiti.
And Zelda gives him the Pendant of Courage. Yuga then goes around transforming important people into paintings. Ravio knew what was going to happen. And the bracelet that he gives Link allows him to kind of move around as Graffiti and keeps him safe while Yuga goes around doing their thing. Link chases Yuga throughout Lorule, where he meets Hilda, which is just, Dark Zelda.
And a very bizarre Sabrina the Teenage Witch reference.
Did you see the new one? The new one's pretty good.
What?
The new one, the Chilling Adventures, that one's pretty good.
No, I haven't seen any new
it's
Sabrina
good.
stuff, no.
Anyway, so Yuga wants the Triforce for himself. Link and Zelda defeat him, but Hilda doesn't want them to leave. Ravio then reveals himself as Lorule's not as courageous version of Link. He convinces Hilda to let them go home, so they do. And so essentially, Hilda didn't want them to go because she was afraid that Lorule was not in. It wasn't the best vacation spot, I'll just say. Their economy was in the tank. Things were kind of just not that.
It was like
great.
a 2 out of 10 on Yelp.
Yeah. No. Oh, the Yelp reviews are outrageous. So she was afraid that by letting them go, especially with the Triforce, that they would just do what they've been doing and sealing away that world and cutting them off completely. And essentially what happens at the end of this is that Link and Zelda wish upon the Triforce for Lorule to have its own Triforce restored. And that's the Triforce that you see in the logo there. So Lorule gets its own Triforce, and there's maybe prosperity, we assume?
Perhaps.
Question mark? The end? Sort of.
But then there's a power. I'd imagine there'd be like a power struggle there where it's like, now we can take over the top world.
Damn it. So with everything all said and done, Link needs something to do, so he goes to Hytopia, and where he meets Princess Styla, who once wore more fabulous clothes, but was cursed by Lady Maud to wear an ugly outfit. Yes, this is part of the timeline. I don't care if you didn't buy the game. It is there. Whether you like it or not.
All things considered, it's a really good multiplayer Zelda game.
Yeah, I think it just came out.
Only multiplayer.
I think it just came out at a weird time because I think this is the same time that what was the Metroid Prime game that came out? Federation.
Oh, yeah.
And this was like the year of Nintendo making multiplayer 3DS games because they were wildly popular in Japan, and people who were starved for a Metroid game for like 10 years did not take kindly to it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But supposedly it's a good game. Like when people actually like played it, they're like, "Oh shit, that's all
This
right."
brought Triforce Heroes though brought us fantastic characters like the king who goes, "Oh!" or Combsley. I love Sir Combsley. He's my favorite character in that game.
So what essentially happens is all the people of Hytopia were scared after Lady Maud transforms Princess Styla that they too would have to dress like Uggos. And Link wasn't going to let that happen, so he joins the Witch Hunting Brigade. So he and his doppelgangers then go through the Drab Lands, which is 10 out of 10 Nintendo Treehouse, and finally vanquish Lady Maud, which lifts Styla's curse. All is well in Hytopia. We never have to talk about it again.
One of my favorite things about the ending of that game though is just like when you beat the game, it's like, as your reward, here's the horrible outfit that Styla was forced to wear.
Yeah. It's literally just like, well, she's not wearing it anymore. Do you want it?
It's a brown morph suit that like I think it like doubles the amount of damage you take or something.
Oh, good. So it's just hard mode.
It's entirely penalty.
Amazing.
It actually gives you a dodge change as well.
Oh yeah.
Really? Nice.
So mostly hard mode, but like one teeny tiny little buff in there.
Just change. Yeah. And then we get the original 2 games, The Legend of Zelda and Adventures of Link. It's literally the first Zelda game, but happens in the middle of the story. Everything is great for a while in Hyrule, but the king couldn't find anyone suitable for holding the Triforce, and he splits it into 3 pieces before he dies. And in this game, we only talk about 2 of them. We have the Triforce of Courage, Wisdom, and Power. He splits up 3 pieces. Apparently, the prince, who we talk about in this one and the next one, and then we never hear about a prince again, was so mad that he only got 2 pieces of the Triforce. A wizard tells him that Zelda, the prince's sister, knows where the 3rd piece is, but wouldn't tell him where it is. And because of this, the prince gets mad and orders the wizard to send Zelda into semi-eternal sleep. We do not hear about this in the first game, but supposedly it's in the instruction booklet of Adventure of Link. And this is just something that happens long before this first game even happens, which makes things effortlessly confusing. Because you save one Zelda in this game, you do not save the same Zelda in the second game.
But it's the same Link.
But it's the same Link. And now you rescue two Zeldas, and so now you have two Zeldas, and you're just kind of like, what do now?
I'm Zelda. This is my sister Zelda.
We have two Princess Zeldas, and apparently this one goes to sleep, and apparently still stays whatever age she was when she falls asleep. Prince realizes he messed up, so he seals the sleeping Zelda away into the North Castle and orders that all female descendants in the monarchy were to be named Zelda, which is great because they were already doing that anyway.
It's just law now. Now they can't go against it.
Because Zelda was asleep and no one knew where the Triforce of Courage was, which was the third piece, the royal family could no longer rule using said Triforce, so generations passed, the kingdom was divided. Ganon and his buddies invaded. We don't know how. The current Zelda splits the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 pieces so that Ganon could not have it. Impa flees, finds Link, tells Link what happened, and because he was just such a cool guy, and also a child apparently, he fights his way through to restore the Triforce of Wisdom, defeats Ganon, which recovers the Triforce of Power, then saves Princess Zelda. So this is an interesting one because we know. Like, I grew up when my first Zelda game was Ocarina of Time, so I knew there were 3 pieces, and it didn't really hit me that in the original Zelda game, there's only 2 Triforce pieces, and I believe in Adventures of Link, they kind of go into how there's a 3rd piece, and that's about it.
I mean, like, it does make sense with the name of them being Triforce, but at the same time, they are triangles. Also, like, instruction manuals were, like, very paramount for conveying story back in those days when they couldn't just show text on screen. Diddy Kong Racing has a story, and it's like, all like posted at the beginning of the instruction manual.
No,
it's a wild read.
Well, like, Rare's instruction manuals were so cool because you got all of the premise for the game, and it was like told to you in a storybook setting. They were all very, very good, like Donkey Kong Country on up.
If it wasn't an RPG, you had no idea what was going on in those early games.
No,
like if you didn't read the instruction booklet before. You just, like, as a kid, you just had a call of action to play the game. You didn't know what your hero's motivation was at all.
Yeah.
I definitely miss the days of having the manual and just being able to flip through and be like, this is what I'm playing. And then these days you just get a little box and emptiness inside except for one teeny tiny little cartridge, and you're like, oh, okay.
One teeny tiny little cartridge and sometimes a marketing sleeve.
It's like that.
If you were lucky.
It's like that thing in what is it? Like in like dystopian things of the future where it's like there's no food, there's just pills.
Yeah. You just like look at a fork. I remember these.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that happens. We have this very unique backstory where we have 2 Zeldas, and again, I must reiterate as we talk about these like illustrious instruction manual snippets of story, that whole sleeping Zelda thing does not matter in the first game. It's not even in the instruction manual. Just the part where, you know, we talk about the 2 pieces of the Triforce and Impa tells Link, you gotta save Zelda. She literally just found him randomly and he was like...
Yeah, he's a really good sport about that. It's just like... Impa just came and dropped all this information on him. He's like, yeah, all right.
He's not like that one streamer who's like, I hate it when people trauma
there's a cave right over there. I know a guy. He's got a sword in there. Like he's a little weird. He lives in a cave, but he's gonna give me that sword. I could take care of this, right?
I like the idea that, well, she's the princess. I like the idea that somebody just gives you a prescription. Like, he's not a doctor. He's not licensed. He just hands you this prescription and goes, now go talk to the old lady. And she looks at the prescription and is like, what kind of drugs you want? Do you want the good drugs or the gooder drugs?
Is it the good drugs is like the potion and like the gooder drugs is the heart? Is that what?
No, the good drugs is the potion. The gooder drugs is the potion you get to use twice.
Oh yeah.
That's the one. That's the one.
Give me a double.
Yeah, give me a double.
Give me a double and NyQuil.
I'm having a rough day with this level 6.
I'm gonna need 2 sips for
These
that.
whiz robes, man. After saving current Zelda, Link wasn't done. The Triforce appears on the back of his hand. He shows it to Impa, who tells him about the sleeping Zelda. He finds the Triforce of Courage, which finally reunites all the pieces of the Triforce and awakens the sleeping Zelda. And now you have 2 Zeldas to run 2 Denny's. It's trivia time. What is the name of the king in the CDI games? I see Pikachu hat. I was about to say, you like kind of bent over and like you're gonna look it up on your phone.
I swear it's there, but then I just lost it.
Okay, I saw somebody back with a glove.
Black glove, yeah. You're right there, yep.
Sorry, say that one more time. That is correct.
Oh!
Now take the long walk up here for your $2. Get over here, Mando.
Enough. My ship sails in the morning. I wonder what's for dinner.
All right, so we got 10 minutes to get through the rest of this. Anyway, so there's 2 other timelines. The hero's triumphant. He's a child. After adult Link saves the day, adult Zelda sends Link back to his original time, which at this point Link knows about Ganondorf. So apparently they all listened to the 6-year-old, took the initiative, or the 9-year-old.
Yeah, Link's a narc.
Initiative. I'm just,
It changes
14-year-old.
all the time.
Who knows about Ganondorf? They warn Zelda. She gives him the ocarina, sends him off, and they went on and lived their lives. And in the child timeline, we get to Majora's Mask.
Woo!
So after Link defeats Ganondorf and goes back to his old timeline, he wants to go find his friend Navi. In doing so, he ends up in Termina, which is an alternate dimension. He tries to prevent the apocalypse in order to go back to the real Hyrule. And we all know that if you die outside of your own game, you die in real life.
Yo, I just want to say that my favorite character in Majora's Mask is the truck that hits him when he's on Epona. Yeah, that's what that's an isekai.
That's not the panel today.
Majora's Mask in the timeline pisses me off a little bit because one of the books is like, this isn't canon. And I'm like, no.
Did it really happen?
No, you don't get to say that.
So next we have Twilight Princess in the timeline. Link was a farm boy this time. Ganon and Zant meet, become best friends. Midna goes to the light world. She's betrayed by Zant, who only wanted power. Link gets caught up in the crossfire and becomes a dog. Dog and Midna then work together to restore the light, and in order to get Midna home and to restore the dark world and her place in it. So a lot of big fans of Twilight Princess, I see, and that's good. That's good. I hope you enjoyed that game. I did not. Anyway, Four Swords Adventures. I knew we were going to get to it. So with this one, the Hylians and the Gerudo have become cool now. Everything's great. But then a new Ganondorf appears and plans to bring back Vati for some reason and creates a Shadow Link, not to be confused with Dark Link from Zelda 2. Zelda saw things were kind of going south, so she goes to the Shrine Maidens to renew the seal on Vati. Shadow Link then shows up scattering the maidens. Link then pulls the Four Sword, which not only turns him into 4 Links, but also then actually releases Vati. Way to go.
And then it's up to Link, Lank, Lonk, and Lunk to go on their journey.
So now the 4 Links have to go run around and work together in order to defeat Vati and seal Ganon into the Four Sword and turn back into just 1 Link. So everybody then is like stuck. It's like Iago and Jafar in the lamp in Aladdin at the very end. So now they're all just sharing that teeny little living
They're
space.
roomies.
They're roomies. Yeah, they
In a
better
very
be good
tight
friends.
space.
And so then we get the hero's triumphant timeline, which is
the
the
timeline
adult.
ends for that one?
Yeah. I think Four Swords Adventure used to be in the middle of that one, and then they just scooched it over to the end. So now we have the timeline where the hero is triumphant, but we have the adult version. This is the timeline that is technically the most straightforward. Once Link defeats Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, he's sent back to his original time. But Zelda stays where she is, and Link technically doesn't actually exist in that time. I don't know why. It's timey-wimey stuff. So Link doesn't technically exist in the adult timeline because he's still technically in the sacred realm.
This is why you don't mess with time travel.
No.
It gets all weird and screwy. You
Yeah.
just don't do it.
One wrong move and you're your own grandpa.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Dang it, Fry. This is why it's referred to the era without a hero. This is specifically referenced in our next game, The Wind Waker.
Woo!
In this one, Ganon's seal breaks, and because the hero does not arrive, the gods then flood Hyrule, because apparently that's how you get rid of pests. You just drown them.
It's like you call an exterminator. It's like, yeah, I got an infestation. Okay, we're gonna seal up your entire house and flood it.
Is that gonna mess up my electronics? Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no. Water. You will not have insurance anymore. Let's just leave it at that.
You really should have picked the flooding insurance. So Link goes back to his own time. Zelda Timeline no longer has one, so the Triforce of Courage gets split up again. Zelda sends the Master Sword back to the Temple of Time, and to keep things from turning into the Fallen Hero timeline where Ganon's seal breaks, the gods flood Hyrule. They only protect a select few. Apparently, sometime we either consider the Zoras to evolve into. That's.
And they just killed the Gorons. They're dead.
Oh, no.
There's three in the entirety of Wind Waker. The rest are dead.
Yeah, well,
Whoa.
rock is weak to water, so.
There you
That's
go.
true. That's true.
Or you know what? They could have evolved too. Maybe they just live at the bottom of the ocean.
Ooh!
Yo,
they
Goron
turn into coral.
Atlantis? Goron Atlantis, let's go.
Yeah. So Hyrule's frozen. Otherwise, Hyrule itself is frozen in time, along with Ganondorf. But after you do some things in the game that restores Hyrule, it essentially Ganondorf then kind of returns. He resurfaces hundreds of years later. We have the Helmarok King, which kidnaps little girls, because that's not weird. Link then meets the King of Redlines, who turns out to actually be the King of Hyrule, and Tetra turns out to be Princess Zelda. And they all work together as one happy family in order to defeat Ganondorf. And then the King of Hyrule goes, ha-ha, and then just floods the world again. There's a really good old webcomic called The King is a Jerk. And it's literally just a retelling of this story, but with the idea that the king just sucks. And it's kind of his fault that we go into Phantom Hourglass.
Oh, no.
So Link and Tetra, the pirates, go search for a new continent. They wind up in a world where the Ocean King, where Tetra has been taken away by a ghost ship. Link goes after her, is washed away, but instead of having a Link's Awakening dream adventure, he washes up on Merkay Island, where he then forges the Phantom Sword and uses that to defeat Bellum and save Tetra. But technically, this is also a dream. Ish. We don't really know if this actually happens. Essentially, they pull a Link's Awakening and maybe this happened, maybe it didn't.
You want to know why Link never talks? It's because he keeps getting concussions.
Are you the hero of time?
Yep. He can spout a few words at a time. I mean, like, Wind Waker Link hasn't beat it. Like, at least he can meow.
He does.
That's
When you're-
true.
when
It's the
you're
only
chasing-
thing
That is true.
it's the only thing that stuck.
And come on.
He can-
He says come on, too.
He can communicate with Ganondorf.
Ganondorf.
Ganondorf?
No, that's how he knows how to meow. And then after that, we get Spirit Tracks. God help me. The pirate team find a new continent, which Tetra calls New Hyrule. Because that's what you do when you find a new place that's built on top of an old. Yeah, you either go Neo or New, which is
Yep.
basically the same word. 100 years later, Link, who works with trains, and Zelda, who is a descendant of Tetra, set out to learn why the train tracks have suddenly disappeared. Zelda Jr.'s spirit is split from her body, so now that ghost Zelda is Link's new companion. And together they restore the tracks, and Zelda then gets her body back. And yes, this is when she is at her most unhinged.
I'd imagine so. And like, it's kind of Spirit Tracks is interesting. It's one of the few Zelda games like a direct, like, same with what is it, Phantom Hourglass. Few games where it's like it's along that continuity of Wind Waker.
It's interesting because those three games have a very distinct and very like commonality between all three of them.
Look, one of the characters in Spirit Tracks is just one of the characters from Wind Waker, a lot older.
Yeah, and then there's always a question about like because I was like, oh well, Zelda 1 and 2 is really the only like true sequels with each other because it's the same Link. But technically, yeah, we do have some times where we get the same Link. This one is not. This one is definitely a descendant.
Yep.
But Phantom Hourglass and Wind Waker are very directly related to each other. Yeah.
Like his grandkid or something,
Yeah.
or great grandkid.
Or we don't know. We don't even know how that works. We don't know if Link even has kids. We just assume that, like...
Or yeah, it could just be a completely different Link entirely. Just like, hey, the genetics don't line up here.
Well, it's like you have
It could
two
be a spirit thing.
Hylians with like black hair, and then all of a sudden you just see Link come out with gold hair, and the father gets
The
really
chosen
upset.
one.
No, it's definitely the chosen one. That's absolutely what happened. Let's move on, Derek. So we have trivia again.
The Legend
so
of
let's
Zelda
just try
and
to
the
get through this as
infidelity with
quickly
Link's
as possible.
parents.
What is the only mainline Zelda game in which the Octorok is absent? I saw you. Yes, you.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess is the correct answer. Come up and get your $2. So what happens next? Egg. So basically,
Andrew, we've got 3 minutes left.
yep, I'm speed running, man. So what we got next is we have Breath of the Wild and Age of Calamity. I guess also like a weird timey-wimey direct sequel there too. Rock salt is crystallized salt from the ancient sea. That's where that's something from Wind Waker. You have the Rito, which are taken from Wind Waker. They are appearing in Breath of the Wild 2, which caused a lot of confusion with people because you have Rito and Zora in the same game. The Divine Beasts are named after Darunia, Ruto, Naburu, Medley, and Ruto. They do a similar thing with the Seven Sages in Adventures of Link, where all the towns are named after the sages. You also have a lot of links between Breath of the Wild and other games in the Zelda franchise.
You've done it.
Like Rallis Pond, which that's the name of the prince, I believe, was Rallis? Or no, was that something else? The
Burrito Prince, yeah.
You also have the Mido Swamp, Arbiter's Grounds, and Tingle Island. But essentially, Breath of the Wild is either set so far in the future or so far in the past that it doesn't exist. It essentially is a new timeline sequence. So with this, Age of Calamity and Tears of the Kingdom, we are essentially embarking on a new timeline. And honestly, we don't know if Aonuma and the Zelda team are going in that direction or if they're just gonna...
We just need new games.
Well, there's
More games.
there's two potential solutions to the to this whole ordeal. They could either A, create a game that merges all the timelines together to put them into Breath of the Wild,
Zelda
or
Monopoly.
or B, there's no timeline.
There's no timeline. This whole hour
There's no
was a
timeline.
waste.
Yes.
Are you going to discuss your theories on where Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom you think are going to take place? I have a theory that does exactly what you have to describe.
I mean, they've officially stated that it does not exist on the timeline and exists in its own little corner by itself. It would be interesting to see if they change their minds, which they have clearly done a bunch of times. So it would be interesting, and I really at that point don't know. I would just assume that it would fall so far in the future where, like, if does something happen where all three timelines merge and you get Breath of the Wild that way. I don't know. What do you two think?
I've stated my piece on it. Either just like eliminate the fact there's a timeline, just say like these are fun references to previous Zelda games.
Yeah.
Or create some sort of media that actually does merge the three timelines together. Because once you split, you can't really go back from that.
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
you do some Marvel Cinematic Universe, multi-dimensional BS. And
It's
that's
just just have a game where like Link's a cowboy with a magical lasso that travels between the three timelines.
yeah, Link and the
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness. That's
I
what
just want
happens.
Link as a cowboy.
And let's not forget we have our fun little spin-offs and more. And these can all fall wherever in the timeline. Maybe Smash Brothers merges the timelines together.
They exist in their own little bubbles all
You
over
forgot
the
Zelda's
place.
adventure.
Maybe Hyrule
That's
Warriors
little
does the trick.
sparkles.
And that is
We're
it.
getting the, yeah.
Yep, that is it for our panel. Thank you guys so much. We made it. I told you I never end these things early. But thank you guys so much for
Thank
being here. And
you.
be sure to rate us in Guidebook if you have that app. I know the internet's spotty, but if you rate us well, then maybe we'll get the big rooms.
Get us the big rooms,
Get us the big
please.
rooms.